Every AAA game that's ever released has always had leaks, and sometimes they end up being true, but most of them lead to nothing. Red Dead Online is no different. We've had some crazy leaks over the years, some of which were hyped up as game-changing content, but here we are without that content. In today's video, I'll be sharing some of the most overhyped leaks that never happened. Before we do get into the video though, I want to let you know about a project that I've been working on. It's no secret that I've created a lot of gaming channels, and because I've created so many, I know how to get them partnered in about 1 to 2 months without needing to promote them on other social media accounts. And I always get asked, how do I do it? That's why I've created an in-depth class on Skillshare. It goes through the basics of creating a new YouTube channel, but it quickly scales up into doing keyword research, planning videos, recording, editing, creating thumbnails, and eventually getting monetized, where you can actually start running your YouTube channel like a business by outsourcing the work. If you're interested in having your own gaming channel, then there is a link in the description down below, as well as you can find it as the pinned comment, and that will give you a free month of Skillshare where you can use that time to watch through my class, and at the end of it, you will understand everything that you need to know. So link to everything can be found in the description down below. Getting back into the video, there's been plenty of leaks since the release of Red Dead Online in 2018, and of course I can't include every single one of them within this video. I'll be going through 5 of my favorite, and if this video does well, I will record a part 2. So starting off, we have the leak of there being a taxidermy role or a trader enhancement. This one, players weren't sure what it was going to be. All they knew is that there were references to taxidermy, and also there were a few hints to a trader enhancement coming at the same time, so they thought it was either going to be one or the other. This actually first popped up after the naturalist update within 2020. Within the files, data miners found references to the taxidermy, there was some artwork along with it, and once this information started to spread, this is also the point in which players started to make connections. They linked it to the taxidermy house just outside Strawberry, the place where we did have the cinematic for the naturalist. During that cinematic, Gus McMillan mentions another character by the name of Mrs. Hobbs. If you spent a long time within the Red Dead Redemption 2 story to complete the main story but also some of the side activities, you may know who this is. This was all the information that we got just after the naturalist, but fast forward to the prestigious Bounty Hunter release, which happened in December of 2020. A connection that players made was the liveries that was added to the Bounty Hunter wagon, and many noticed that the Trader Hunting wagon had a new option for liveries, but this one was grayed out. They linked this back to the trader, thinking that it could be a trader enhancement, but they also remembered that at this point there was also taxidermy leaks, and they thought that this could go hand in hand. This is why we had the leak of a taxidermist / trader enhancement. And many believe that the very next update that was going to happen within 2021 was going to be this content. This content was going to be released. And of course, we know that it didn't. With a trader enhancement, I do believe at some point within the future we will get one, but just because there is leaks that point to new content coming doesn't actually mean that it is going to be coming the very next update. The next leak that never really happened, and this is one that has happened several times. Of course, it is properties. Now we do have properties within the game, being the Moonshine Shack, but weirdly with the Moonshine Shack, I don't believe there were any leaks before this. In fact, there was an interview with VG247 where they mentioned properties within the game and said that it wasn't time. They wanted players to live out in the wilderness within their camps and eventually would progress up to a property later on. And of course, when you say something like that, players ended up believing it. They believed that there wasn't going to be any properties anytime soon, only for them to show up a few months later once we did get the Moonshine update. For every other leak that we've had with properties, and even Rockstar saying that there will be more properties, even communal spaces coming within the future, there just hasn't been. The first leak that we had about properties was within 2018. This was as soon as Red Dead Redemption 2 was released. If you remember, RDR2 came out a month before Red Dead Online. This was a way to get players to play through the story first, as well as also give a bit more time for them to develop Red Dead Online. As soon as the story was released, there were still files and references to Red Dead Online, and of course, people went through them. These files mentioned a number of different properties but didn't give any information. It said property number 1, property number 2, property number 3, and so on, with them all having a placeholder price and a placeholder description. Everyone expected Rockstar to update the placeholder price, update the placeholder description, and for there to be properties day one. And of course, this didn't happen. Properties were then leaked all the way through the rest of 2018 after Red Dead Online's release, all the way through 2019, but the big one happened in 2020. This is where there was a property and mansion leak for Red Dead after the Natchless update yet again. This time there was quite a bit of backlash because the properties didn't require cash, they required gold. Starting out around 45, but going all the way up to 600 gold bars. And thankfully, this update didn't happen. The next leak to talk about is the new addition of boats and also Guarma coming to Red Dead Online. With boats, they're of course already within the game. You can go to the docks in Saint Denis and you can see a number of them out there. If you really want to and you time it correctly, you can actually swim out, jump on top of one and take control. It's actually a fun thing to do within game, especially if you have already completed all other content, which, let's be real, isn't that hard. But with this leak, it was the idea that you'll be able to go and use some of the bigger boats within the game, such as a tugboat, and you'll also be able to fast travel to Guarma, which will be a new location within online. But of course, we did have that chapter within story. Bringing both of these really wouldn't be too difficult. We already have the location within Guarma. There's not really too much that needs to be done apart from the fact of being able to fast travel and then also setting up something to do within that area. Guarma is already within the game. There have been many people, especially content creators, who have taken the time to travel all the way around the map, eventually traveling to Guarma. As for the boats, we can already see that they are part of the game, and there's even some that are functional, as we did mention earlier. But just like everything else within this list, nothing happened with this side of the leak. None of this content ended up being as part of the Blood Money update, and we still haven't had anything since, with it being over a year now. There were some textures that were also part of this leak, and these were texture atlases which were used for different types of game assets. That is the point of a texture atlas. It is used for a number of assets, and the assets that players were originally thinking that they were going to be leaked to, which was the tugboat, it wasn't. The next leak that we have to talk about is Heist. Heists are very similar to properties in that they were leaked just before the release of Red Dead Online, but the real big one actually came a few months later, just before the spring update in 2019. This spring update did include content where you was able to rob a bank. This was technically the first heist within the game, but unfortunately it wasn't what players were looking for. It was a linear mission where you would rob the bank in Saint Denis. Just before this update was released, players somehow found a way within this bank within free roam. And this was a crazy moment because Rockstar did actually make a mistake where they opened up every single bank within the game. You could freely walk within them, walk around them, and it did give the idea that potentially heists were coming. Only for that spring update to release and the realization set in that it was just going to be a linear mission. The most recent leak around Heist came with the boats and Guarma leak. There was also textures found within the files which pointed to bank vaults, strong boxes, and jewelry bags. And very similar to the spring update, yes, there was a heist coming, but unfortunately it wasn't in a form that players were wanting. It ended up being the opportunities as part of the Blood Money update, and all of those textures that were just mentioned, being the bank vault, strong boxes, and jewelry bags, they weren't actually included within those opportunities. Rockstar have said that at some point within the future, heists will be within the game. They just want to do them in a way where it's not exactly the same as Red Dead. But of course, until that does finally happen, there will be a number of leaks, probably with every single update that does get released. And the final leaks that we're going to be talking about as part of this video is vehicles. Wagons were supposed to play a very big part right at the beginning of the game, and yes, they are part of the game, but you can't actually buy them unless it's the bounty wagon or the hunting wagon. Just before the release of Red Dead Online, there was a number of wagons which were mentioned within the files, and very similar to the properties yet again. This had a placeholder price, but with some of the descriptions they were included. This same leak had mentioned to a number of horses which ended up being parts of the game. It was just the wagons that weren't able to be used by you as the player. They were in some way included as part of the game because NPCs would drive around them. Even later, once the war wagon was introduced with the spring update where we did have bring your own goddamn posse as a mission, this is where we first saw the war wagon, and this was mentioned right at the beginning, so there is some credibility here, but it was never available for players to purchase. This war wagon did make a return within 2020 when we did get the prestigious bounty hunter, but just like last time, you wasn't able to buy this. It ended up being used for a legendary bounty. To this day, with all the leaks that we get around vehicles, which happens fairly often, is probably the third thing on this list if we were going to look at the most leaked items, being heists, properties, and then it would be vehicles. This content still hasn't been released in game for players to buy. We do have wagons within the game that you can use. You will notice NPCs using these types of vehicles which you can steal and use, you just can't buy them yourself. But with the ones that you can buy, it is the bounty wagon from the bounty hunter role, the hunter wagon from the trader role, and with the trader role you also have your delivery wagons which you can use. But it would be nice to have access to other types of vehicles that you can buy into without needing to enter into a role to unlock them. It's just a case of you having money, you buy into them, you use them just to have fun. And that content still hasn't been added to the game. Anyway guys, here are 5 different leaks, which leads to a number of different leaks, as some has happened more than once, which really didn't add to anything within Red Dead Online. And this honestly is a shame because I think all of us would happily invite all of this content within game. But let me know in the comment section down below, has there been a leak within game that got you really hyped only for it to never happen? Let me know what you were excited for within the comment section down below. Anyway guys, I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did enjoy, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. But for now, I'm going to see ya.